Welcome, everyone. Thank you for all of you joining us today to celebrate Pope Francis's visit to the U.S. We'd also like to include, in solidarity with all of our brothers and sisters of the Jewish community that celebrated Yom Kippur yesterday. We'd also like to take into consideration all of our Muslim brothers and sisters that are celebrating Eid today. I am Deacon Ruben Solorio, Director of Social Ministries at the Diocese of San Jose and a faith leader with PACT, People Acting in Community Together.
And I'm Father John Pettigo, the pastor of Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish and a clergy leader with PACT as well. As PACT leaders from diverse traditions, we stand together also with Police Chief Esquivel, Assistant Chief Garcia, and other faith leaders and multiracial community in solidarity with Pope Francis. We hear his call to satisfy the demands of justice, fairness, and respect for every human being. Pope Francis is not only the leader of the Catholic Church, but also a global leader with a message for all who believe in the dignity of every human being. Public officials, as well as the most humble community members, are listening, and his words resonate with people from all backgrounds. With the Pope's visit, we have a precious opportunity to listen deeply to his message about dignity for all. He calls not only for knowing and understanding one another and personal action to address the needs of the marginalized, but also for institutional and structural change to create a new community of love and brotherhood. Our challenge is not only to admire Pope Francis, but to imitate him. Yesterday, at the White House, the Pope urged U.S. officials and Americans to reject any form of injustice and discrimination. This morning, Pope Francis addressed Congress and challenged our national leaders to bring their faith and values to bear witness on the issues of the day and to listen to the stories of people actually affected by these structures of injustice and inequality. We are here now to bring the Pope's message to our local officials and community, to challenge and partner with them to take action to create a more equitable and inclusive valley. We also take a moment to also welcome Chris Ariolo from the DA's office, who's come here as part of this event. No more, we are now here to stand with Pope Francis, embrace this message that we say no to the economy and the exclusion of the culture of exclusion. We say no more to pushing our families and our friends from the benefits of this valley. No more locking up and throwing away the key for our brothers and sisters. No more depriving people of the dignity that they deserve.
So I would like to invite more PACT faith leaders and partners to share Pope Francis's call. Rabbi Lisa Levenberg from the Congregation Shir Kadash, Reverend Ani Miserandil from the La Trinidad United Methodist Church, Reverend Jeff Moore from the NAACP, Deacon Nut Ho from St. Maria Goretti Catholic Church, and Reverend Nancy Palmer Jones from the First Unitarian Church of San Jose.
We are people from many different faith communities. The Pope's message, an example of encounter, inclusion, and solidarity, binds us together across our traditions. We heed the call of the Pope to encounter. God created us to be loved. To truly know each other, we must listen deeply and hear the stories of struggle and pain. We must approach one another to understand one another. Through that knowing, we can be closer to God and closer to who God wants us to be.
The Pope has called upon us to include. No one is expendable. We must say no to the economy of exclusion, no to treating people as throwaway, no to people as consumer goods. Instead, we need to say yes to honor and dignity, to see the honor and dignity of every person, the migrants, the abandoned, the jailed, the poor. We are one human family.
Reject the culture that deadens us. The culture of prosperity that puts things above people is harming us spiritually and physically. This is an economic system that kills.
Pope Francis brings the message of love out into the world. He weighs in on current issues and lives consistently with his concerns for all people. As Pope Francis implores, Pope Francis implores, it's on.
No more.
Yeah, I think it's this. That's okay. I'm gonna speak loud.
Sorry. Thank you, Reverend.
As Pope Francis implores Congress to bring our faith to public matters, we call on our public officials to respond with their own traditions and values as they consider some of the most critical issues of exclusion and vulnerability in our valley, such as issues of immigration and racial profiling, jail conditions, and affordable housing.
Thank you, Reverend Ani. We invite Pastor Jennifer Goto from the St. Paul's United Methodist Church and Reverend Jeff Moore from NAACP, both leaders from our beloved community movement, to speak about immigration and racial profiling.
Pope Francis says, not infrequently, the arrival of migrants, displaced persons, asylum seekers, and refugees gives rise to suspicion and hostility. There is a fear that society will become less secure, that identity and culture will be lost, that competition for jobs will become stiffer, and even that criminal activity will increase. As Pope Francis says, a change of attitude toward migrants and refugees is needed on the part of everyone, moving away from attitudes of defensiveness and fear, indifference and marginalization, all typical of a throwaway culture, towards attitudes based on a culture of encounter, the only culture capable of building a better, more just, and fraternal world.